This is Craig Davis of Craig Davis Properties, and we appreciate everyone getting on today for the presentation. Couple ground rules. We probably ought to wait a few minutes to see how many more people can join. It looks like, can we pull that thing back up? Let me introduce my team who is on. We've got about 62 attendees on as we speak, and we'll wait for a few minutes on this while I'm introducing some people. There are 3 other CDP team members that will be joining, both from a technical standpoint and a support standpoint here. First is Scott Helmuth. He's going to be running the video and the slides that you're seeing right now, and he's our marketing analyst and has been involved with all of the branding of what we're getting ready to show you. Greg Johnzik, who's the project manager of the first phase, and he'll be weighing in with me here, and I'll relay things as necessary. And Ethan Byram, who handles the financing part of our project and will be involved throughout this project, both in phase 1 and phase 2. It looks like now we have about 71 people who have joined, and it's now just right at 5 o'clock. And so I'll hold just for another minute or so, and then we'll come back on and wait till we get up, because we've had 173 participants that have requested to be on here, and I just want to make sure we give them time for a few minutes to get on. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back here. We've got 75 people. And again, for the people who have just joined us, we have 4 individuals here: myself, Craig Davis, Scott Helmuth, who will be helping me on the slides and is our marketing branding director, Greg Johnzik, who's our project manager on phase 1, and Ethan Byram, who is within our finance side and will be handling finances on both phase 1 and phase 2. I'd first like to welcome everybody again, and just to let you know, throughout this presentation, it will be recorded and will be available to everybody, after the fact. And we know that there's a lot of interest here, and we want to outline some collaborative steps as we show you what we've gone through on phase 1 and what we're proposing for implementation, timelines, etc. for phase 2. Phase 2 will be involved, and we'll start here just a second. Okay, let's go ahead and start. Just wanted to let you know who I am. Craig Davis Properties has been in existence since 1988, and we've completed approximately 7 million square feet of space in the Triangle. We have embarked on some new initiatives that we're involved with throughout the community, and we'll show you some of the stuff and projects that we have done and will target as we talk about our different phases here. Our real mission in our company is we build communities and we build lifestyles that are vibrant, convenient, and connected. We try to do that in a pretty much a scientific way. We try to bring high quality products to the market. We build in the 95% range of quality all the time, and we've been brought into this endeavor to complete the project that's known as Renaissance Park. We also have had numerous involvement with research campuses and mixed-use communities that some of you might be familiar with, some of which we'll show you here in the future presentation. But here's what we'll try to do with you here. This is the actual site, Tract B, which currently exists. We'll show you some topo and some information on both parcels that we're dealing with right now at the intersection of Iliagnis and Olympia Drive and Tryon Road. Oh, okay. He's saying that sometimes when we hit the slides, that there's a little bit of a delay, so I will keep that in mind. Under the 2005 PDD Master Narrative Summary, I just wanted to highlight a few things for you. The current Tract B has a maximum dwelling units for residential of 250 units, non-residential of 280,000 square feet, a maximum height of 80, and permit for retail and office uses in Tract B shall not occur prior to the issuance of certificates of occupancy for 250 residential dwelling units. We'll discuss that in detail as I go through some of the site plan issues when you look at some of the graphics that will follow. The characteristics that the 2005 PDD plan outlined are pretty self-explanatory here. There seems to be some confusion as it relates to minimum of 10% of residential shall be provided within the mixed-use buildings. We'll talk about that as we show you some of the properties in the phase 1 and phase 2. The massing of the buildings and the development along the perimeter public streets and along the proposed interior private streetscape have driven some of the initial master planning and site planning issues that we've received in our first phase project. I wanted to take a second and just go back through history and let everybody see the initial PUD outline, the infrastructure, the tracks, and the relative locations of adjacent properties. As you can see to the 70 side of the master site plan here, you see older retail establishments right in that quadrant. And up along Highway 70, you see additional types of commercial uses as well as, cemeteries, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to go to the next and highlight Tract B to the northwest and Tract B to the northeast. I wanted to show this picture technically because of some of the existing site conditions as it relates to topography that we're having to deal with. Up to the top left, you'll see a stormwater pond that handles the stormwater for the development in the residential areas there. And that is very sensitive to the water runoff associated with parcel B in the northwest, which we'll show you a site plan here in a second. Tract B, the northeast side, we also want you to be cognizant and understand the requirements as it relates to this tract, because potentially it does limit sizing. We'll talk a little bit about what our projections are and what we would like to do from a potential rezoning here, but we'll show you that in a second. Here is the Renaissance Park Apartments, Tract B. You'll see a new branding name that we'll be dealing with here in a minute. You'll see that with the elevations and a little history about that. This is 222 units. It's 4-story with walk-ups with elevators. You'll see the longer building along Tryon Road will front per the requirements of the zoning along the street Tryon Road. You also see along Olympia the entranceway, which had to be aligned up top there with some special conditions as it relates to the existing ordinance. The bottom right-hand corner of the site, parcel B, would be the clubhouse, and you'll see some elevations of those here in a second. The units, the highlights of the units are pretty much high-end. They're pretty much self-explanatory through this. There is a community feature, and I'll say this, within the apartment community. There was some discussions in some of the questions that outlined questions about, was this amenity package just for the apartments? And the answer to that is yes. We'll have a large fitness facility and yoga room. With the COVID types of programs that we're having to deal with, we're modifying and looking at all aspects of the clubhouse. It will have a lounge and a grilling area, and fire pit, and pet washes, and a resort style saltwater pool and sun deck, which you'll see here in a minute. We highlighted this a little bit to show you the locations and the parking and how the interaction will be with all aspects of the site. Now I want to introduce the name is going to be the 99, and you see in the background some aviation type of product. I'm going to let Scott Helmuth kind of highlight and talk a second about the name and how we came up with this as he goes through the slides.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks everybody for joining us here today. As most of the neighborhood residents might know, this kind of Renaissance Park was all once the Raleigh Municipal Airport, which was it was founded back in 1929. So when we were trying to brand the apartments, we looked into some cool ways to, one, kind of evoke, a cool sense of placemaking with the history of the past. So we kind of decided to tie into the old Raleigh Airport, had some cool elements, some interesting historical avenues, and we kind of ended on the 99. Now the 99, a little bit of history about the airport, started known by the Curtiss Wright Flying Group, and was actually christened by Amelia Earhart in the early 30s as kind of a opening ceremony, so to speak, of the airport. We kind of wanted to tie in to her and a little bit of what she was all about, being a true female pioneer and aviator, kind of in the 30s. So she actually started an all-female flying group called the 99s. She was the first charter member. Had a lot of history there, so we kind of wanted to tie into the 99s and kind of distantly and tie into a lot of the history of the area. And as we get moving, I'll toss it back to Craig, who can talk a little bit about some of the elevations and the design aspects.
We're going to, you can see the four-story aspect with the brick and the corner balconies. We felt like that was going to be really important for visualization of the area. You'll be up in the air a little bit. And you'll see this is the look of the clubhouse from the front entrance area. This is the pool and amenity package that will be adjacent to the corner of South Tryon and Iliagnis. This would be along Olympia so that you can start to see some of the materials that we're using here. Same under this area. Okay. I think a lot of the questions that we have been receiving had to do with, what's the plan going forward? How do we integrate the retail uses, mixed use programs, etc. And what we're going to do is attempt to kind of revisit the whole need analysis of this parcel. We understand some of the commitments that the original master plan envisioned, and we believe that it's extremely important to have mixed use product in the area. And what we're going to try to do with you residents and team members, we're going to start calling you team members, is we're going to be very transparent as it relates to various feasibility studies that are underway. And we'll review those with you in forums, hopefully face-to-face in the upcoming weeks and months. One of the things that we've found initially was that we wanted to go through a higher density and potentially look at a rezoning for the quadrant. We believe in some of the examples that were listed below. We'll show you some of the projects that we've done, and we'll show you more. We do believe that increased density, you're currently at 280,000 square feet. We think that potentially could go up to 750,000 square feet. We have to verify that. There's issues associated with that. We have to make sure that our traffic impact analysis is handled properly. We have to collaborate with the city council and you as residents. There's also been a study in 2017, which we'll show you in a second, on the southern corridor that shows how the city would like this quadrant to be developed. We're going to focus on all the uses associated with that, and a mixed-use quadrant would be important. The other thing is the schedule for transparency once the program is set. And when we say transparency, what we mean is community involvement with some of the decisions that will be made. underneath, you'll see pictures, and the building on the left is a community in Denver, Colorado that we built called Decatur Point. Some of you might be familiar in the middle section. The middle building is a facility that housed ABB, which was our last building at NC State Centennial Campus. We were the initial private developer within Centennial Campus and built about 625,000 square feet of space. And this was kind of the meat at the cube and the design that was created for this. So this is at the intersection of Varsity Drive and Main Campus Drive. The other is kind of a higher quality sign program that we have in a Hampton, Virginia project that encompasses about 300 multifamily units. So what we wanted to highlight to you is the feasibility study, the potential in the rezoning. We don't have to rezone. We could stay with the 280,000 square feet, but we think there's a real opportunity to enhance your community even further. We're going to hit the southern corridor. We're going to focus on all uses and transparency once the program is set. Now, when you go to the Southern Gateway corridor study, what you're finding is that the entrance into downtown Raleigh is becoming very, very important, as well as the access to the residential communities up through I-40. You can see at the bottom of the screen in yellow, it's the Renaissance Park master site plan and where the corridor projections are shown. Now, there's a number of different variations to this, but what has happened with Tryon Road extension and the way in which they have modified that in the past 5 years, that has put a tremendous amount of emphasis on our quadrant. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is adhere to this plan, enhance it, and also modify it so that we can bring the uses that were not only outlined in the original 2005 plan, but also extend it so that we're looking 10 years in the future. So you can see some of the schematics that have been put forth here. It also takes into consideration basically going through some of the older retail establishments that are to the east of many of your homes, which is another thing all in itself. We have started ourselves to take a look at all of this from a standpoint of potential acquisitions, et cetera. But we don't know, there's nothing yet on the adjacent retail pieces that are solid, okay? So what we're going to try to do is show you some of the things that we have in play right now. And again, some of these are schematics and are in site plan approval and are massing plans. They're not necessarily going to be architecturally exactly like this, but we'll show you. This is a first part, and the reason we picked this one is that it's about 10.85 acres, and it's going to house approximately 260 for-sale condos, about 35,000 square feet of retail intermixed with some townhouses, and you'll have first floor retail throughout. This street is actually called Finsbury, that you see where the cars are going, and to the left is Marion. This is at the intersection of Marion and Davis Drive, and you can see again, this is a massing plan on the right-hand side. That would be a condominium type of a product with parking underneath. This is a different schematic design which will show a combination of sketches here that would have retail on the bottom floors. If you could see on the left-hand side all the way to the top is a grocer. On the right-hand side down to the bottom left is a restaurant and I'll call it retail establishment. And in the middle there, you'll see that's where the lake will go. So we actually create a lake there. The high-rise buildings go up to 145 feet, and there are mixed use within each quadrant. They have offices, condominiums, and retail along both of the streets. This is and some of you have asked the question about retail in the initial apartments, and this is why the phase 2 will have the majority of the retail in there. This is a 49-unit project that we did in Denver that shows the retail parcels down below, restaurants, etc. And this gives you a feel for some of the type of condominium type product lines we're going to be looking at, as well as finishing up the 25 units on the multifamily. Now, if we get and we go to the rezoning and everybody's in favor of that, then there'll be many more residential components to this and many more office, retail. We've already been pinged by some medical entities that want to take a look at this area, and this is a hole in some of their future plans, so we really feel comfortable with that. You can see some of the entryways and features from a quality standpoint that we're looking at. This one is a interesting project that we're in the middle of right now in downtown Durham. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because Perkins & Will, the architectural firm, has been involved with Kimberly Horn on this. And this is a height issue. Now, this one actually goes 34 stories, but we have retail that you see on the bottom floors there because of the elevations, and then the parking deck that would be tied in, and that would be in conjunction with the City of Durham theaters that are around and across the street. And then the apartments, these are actually apartments but could be turned into condominiums, with the amenity floors on the 10th floor, which would be about 29,000 square feet that would have that. The next product here we built 20 years ago, and we're now getting back in the middle of this, but Meadowmont Village is in Chapel Hill at the entrance of Meadowmont Lane and Highway 54. We envision this type of environment along the, I'll call it parcel 2, mixed use parcel with B. Retail on the first floor. Obviously the signs are dated and we have to deal with all of that. Condominiums above and for sale condominiums. This project was 255,000 square feet of space. It encompassed a Harris Teeter, encompasses a Harris Teeter, UNC clinics for medical clinics. Also has Wells Fargo advisors as well as branches. And interestingly enough, this project has been hit very, very hard with COVID. So the retail chains and the retail establishments nowadays are changing ever rapidly. So we're going to try to be on the front edge of that as we start doing our ideal tenant profiles. You can already see this is the back part of it as we speak. And we have actually, we're in the process of a rezoning here to include another 150,000 square feet of additional space with condominiums and office. So we're very familiar with the mixed use quadrants and how we have to do it. We were one of the innovators way back, and 20 years ago. In fact, this was the first real true mixed use in Chapel Hill. This one is a new one, and the reason we wanted to show you this is that this is a new one just coming out of the chute. This is going to be around 64 acres across from a hospital location in Clayton, and we're going to be dealing with various aspects of residential for sale product, retail along both the Main Street, office, which could be medical office, and multifamily up to the top right. Okay? So we're giving you a little bit of a feel for what kind of graphics and what kind of information you're going to start to see from us, but with your collaboration and with your buy-in. At the end of the day, there were many questions that came in, and we wish that we could have some interaction right now as far as some of the things that we've just shown you. But over the next 30 to 60 days, we want to be able to have additional meetings with you. We'll show you some concepts based on what we would propose as the new rezoning. And we would like to have those inputs so we could ultimately get to a goal would be to get to a decision by year end on the direction that we want to go with phase 2. We will be underway in the phase 1 before I get to the questions. We'll be underway with the apartments. We're scheduled for building permit submissions prior to September 1, if in fact our site plan approval is completed. We would then submit those, and we would be underway, and construction would occur on the western parcel, probably in July, because we're under a different permit and we're able to bring some dirt in for the parcel. Now, we also, just so you know, we don't want you to get alarmed, but we had to bring some equipment out on the parcel to get some test results in regards to the soil conditions and the geotechnical reports that we were needing. We also are going to be able to go on the mixed-use parcel we will bring some equipment on there to do some borings and take some test results as it relates to that over the next 60 to 90 days. So we don't want you to be alarmed by that. It's more of a testing of what we really have underneath the soil so we can make the right determinations on the sizing, column sizes, and the revised rezoning request. I'll take a minute and hit a few questions. Do you see value in making this development be part of Renaissance Park, as is being able to utilize the amenities and provide for additional amenities, e.g. second pool, etc.? We believe that the apartment complex will have to stand on its own, but we believe that phase 2 will have that kind of inclusion with the amenities and have additional amenities. We're also looking at, within the commercial ordinance, we can have lodging and we can have condos. So we believe that would kind of tie in and have additional support services for your existing amenity building. Question 2, if your plan includes rental apartments only rather than buyer-occupied dwellings, our neighborhood will take on a new flavor with many transient renters who won't be concerned about the specialness of our neighborhood. Well, let me first say to you that some of the rents that are going to be charged in these communities are going to be more than your mortgages. We're trying to bring this up to a standard that is important to you, and massing becomes very important when you're talking about mixed use and the way in which you want to have those developed adjacent to you. So we believe that the rental apartment program, the way we're doing it, is an enhancement, not a hindrance. 3, Does your
3,
company have any plan for managing the environmental impacts that 146 additional single-bedroom apartments will have on our community, roads, traffic, and surrounding areas? Well, interestingly enough, the traffic impact analysis that was done in 2005 took into consideration all of these road trips and the density associated with this. And because of the expanded highways and modifications to Tryon Road, actually you can have a lot more density here from a standpoint of that. So we believe that you're in a really good position as it relates to that, and you have no impact, no substantial impact on any of this because it was already taken into consideration when the initial road systems were built. From your website, it appears that you have a property in your portfolio that, if replicated in Renaissance Park, would meet the needs of our community. Meadowmont Village is exactly what the residents of Renaissance Park have envisioned for Tract B instead of an apartment complex. Can you build a town square with a mix of offices, retail stores, restaurants, and previously owned luxury condominiums? That's kind of why we wanted to show you some of these product lines that we have in our arsenal right now, because we believe that Meadowmont is exactly what Parcel B is all about as it relates to this mixed-use portion. And if you looked at Meadowmont, existing master plan, you will see that a lot of the residential homes that have been built around it and adjacent to the Harris Teeter are homes that are higher density in nature and similar to the apartments that are adjacent to you here that we're building. In fact, across the street from Meadowmont is a major 3-story walk-up that was done while we were actually building Meadowmont 20 years ago. So we think and feel comfortable that with not only the 280,000 square feet, but if we can go ahead and build the higher density, that you're going to have a tremendous amount of amenities that are right at your front door. Next question. We, the homeowners, are quite upset about the possibility of apartments proposed now to be built in our neighborhood. It was shown as mixed retail space on the recorded map. As a realtor, I know the importance of doing what was represented at the time of sale. Our amenities and traffic flow would not accommodate the number of people the apartments would add to our neighborhood, plus it will diminish our property values. I imagine you will have a lot of legal issues should this avenue be pursued. Well, first of all, we are doing exactly what the original plan allowed for, and we are trying to enhance this to allow you to have the input and expand this. Again, the traffic impact analysis was done, including all of this in the original accommodations. Now, I have heard people, and I've seen different questions about different representations that were made, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm telling you, from a standpoint of where we are in today's market and what is the right time to go, absent COVID, okay, I would say to you that because of the growth in this corridor, because of the modifications of the road systems, and because of the new norm that we're all dealing with, this is the Meadowmont type model expanded up in height is the way in which we want to go. And I think you'll be very, very pleased with that. Okay. Next question. Since the onset of the development of this neighborhood, we have been told by the builder that this tract would be eventually developed as mixed use, including retail space. This was one of the deciding factors in our decision to purchase property here. We are deeply concerned to hear that there has been talk of building solely apartments disconnected to this neighborhood. I think that is a misconception, and I don't think from from a communication standpoint, that everything has been put forth with you properly. I will say that we want to take a different approach here from a transparency standpoint. We believe in feasibility studies and enhancements to the communities. That's what we do. And these feasibility studies are extremely important to show you what can be successful here and what can't be successful here. Now, you've got a lot of hodgepodge development in and around a 1 mile radius of this quadrant. So when we go into this phase, there's going to have to be some significant involvement with retail users, guidance from them, guidance from office, guidance from medical office, guidance from lodging, guidance from condo sales, price points, etc. And so what we're doing here is doing exactly what you're ultimately wanting to have around your neighborhood. So I would just say to you that it's time now to move on this. There are a lot of homes that are being built now in and around this. Sensitivity to access to downtown Raleigh and various other quadrants, transportation corridors, this is in a perfect position to go. So with the help of the City Council, with the help of you, and with the help of our lenders and our equity providers, we've targeted this to be in a go mode. It's very important that we come out of the ground with the first phase of the project and then tie in subsequently after that to start building this product out. Now, our schedule will be to deliver the units starting in the end of 2021, ending in the first quarter of 2022, and in the meantime, starting a rapid discussion as it relates to phase 2, which you see if you go back through some of the things, and let's go back to the Meadowmont picture if you could do that. We go to the next one. We'll try to play this out. We're not saying it's going to be brick. We're not saying it's going to be 3 stories. We're saying it has to be higher than that. This particular building is a mixed-use product where you have office on the top, 2 floors, and retail on the bottom. We envision this as a minimum of 5 stories as we go into phase 2, and office buildings that could be as high as 7 to 8 stories. We would like to try to go in at 145 feet. Let's go to the Penny Farm site plan. Okay, what we're doing here, what we call where it says medical office, we're actually taking those buildings up to 145 feet, which would be at 14 feet of floor. You'd probably be, 10 floors. So we're taking a look at that relative to similar type of product. Is that acreage right in the middle there that's shown there is right at 11 acres. Okay, so you're dealing with about the same size of that. So we go up in the air there, then you're going to have retail along Main Street, etc. So we hope that we have answered some of your questions. We hope that we have shared with you some of our thoughts. This is not the last time we'll speak. We want to be able to speak almost with you on, when you have your homeowners association meetings and keep you up to date. We want to try to be involved in some newsletters. We want to be involved with, on site, and we are available at any time. My personal number, if you need to call me, is 919-414-1300. That's my cell phone. My office is 919-678-4210. My email is craig.davis@craigdavisproperties.com. Our webpage is under construction right now, and we hope to have that up and available, showing our new brand in many of the different communities that we're in fairly soon. And we look forward to being a part of your community. Thank you.